Some of you may have seen videos or read headlines about the shocking story of Amina Jelani Richardson. But what most people don't realize is that there's a much deeper side to this tragedy, one that reveals how love, betrayal, and vengeance collided in a way nobody expected. In today's video, we're not just revisiting the story, we're uncovering the hidden details, the build-up that led to that fateful night, and what it really means for our understanding of trust and justice across cultures. Before we dive in, we'd like to give a special shout-out to Shatiel Jenkins, one of our most dedicated supporters, whose passion for true crime inspires us to dig deeper into these complex stories. Shatiel, this one's for you. Hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what your name is and where you're watching from. If you've seen other versions of this story before, stick around, because this one will leave you seeing it in a whole new light. The sharp, percussive cracks of 2 gunshots shattered the curated tranquility of the Four Seasons Hotel in Houston, Texas, on the night of April 28, 2024. The sound, alien and violent, reverberated off the polished marble corridors, a stark sonic violation in a temple of luxury and discretion. By the time hotel security, their professionalism overriding their shock, converged on the door of the presidential suite, room 1247. They discovered not merely a crime scene, but the gruesome, final act of a romance that had metastasized into a profound and chilling tragedy. The individual who had pulled the trigger, who had meticulously planned this moment of ultimate violence, had stood at a sun-drenched altar in Dubai exactly 7 days prior, swearing a vow of eternal fidelity. This narrative transcends a simple chronicle of murder. It is a deep and unsettling excavation of the human condition, a mapping of the psychological fault lines where passionate devotion can fracture into all-consuming rage, and where a single week of matrimony can systematically demolish a foundation of trust painstakingly constructed over 6 years. It is a stark, terrifying examination of how the very intensity of love, when poisoned by betrayal and fortified by capability, can be reforged into the most intimate and lethal of weapons. To our incredible and deeply valued community of viewers and subscribers, your engagement and support are the very lifeblood of this channel. Thank you for standing with us as we dedicate ourselves to bringing you comprehensive, daily updates on the most gripping, complex, and unsettling true crime narratives from across the globe. Please ensure you are subscribed and have notifications activated. The investigations we have forthcoming will redefine this genre. Your likes, comments, and shares fuel our mission to uncover the truth behind the darkest corners of human behavior. Tell us in the comments, what drew you to this story? And where are you watching from? New York, London, Dubai, or beyond? Her name was Amina Jelani Richardson. To any observer in the week preceding that cataclysmic night in Houston, she was the living embodiment of a modern fairy tale. At 26, she possessed a formidable intellect, a degree in cybersecurity from a top American university, and a striking, elegant beauty that turned heads. She had just celebrated her marriage to her college sweetheart in what was widely reported as one of Dubai's most opulent and lavish wedding ceremonies of 2024. But Amina was far more than a mere socialite or pampered heiress. She was the only daughter of Rashid and Layla Richardson, self-made titans of industry whose empire of luxury hotels spanned the Middle East. Her childhood was a paradox of immense privilege and profound emotional scarcity, a life spent navigating the hallowed halls of international preparatory schools and the sprawling, silent estates of Dubai, where every material want was anticipated and met, but genuine, sustained emotional connection was a rare and fleeting commodity. While her parents were architects of a business dynasty, Amina became the architect of her own emotional fortifications, learning from a tender age that reliance on others was a precarious and often painful endeavor, and that the only truly reliable entity was oneself. This carefully managed, emotionally compartmentalized existence was irrevocably altered in August 2018. during the bustling chaos of freshman orientation at the University of Texas. It was there, amidst a crowd of hopeful newcomers, that her path intersected with that of Khalid Washington. To her family and upbringing, he represented everything she had been implicitly taught to avoid. Yet, to Amina, he was irresistibly, dangerously compelling. At 28, he carried himself with a magnetic, almost palpable confidence that bordered on arrogance, possessing a preternatural charm and eloquence that allowed him to talk his way into or out of any situation. His background was a study in stark contrasts and dualities. His first 8 years were spent in the hardscrabble reality of Houston's Third Ward, where his African-American mother, Zendaya Washington, worked double shifts as a nurse to keep them afloat. This was followed by a sudden translocation to the dazzling, hypermodern opulence of Dubai with his estranged Emirati father, Saeed al-Mansouri, after his parents' marriage fractured under the weight of cultural differences and financial strain. Khalid evolved into a perfect chameleon, fluent in both Arabic and the vernacular of his Houston youth, capable of quoting the Quran with reverence, or the lyrics of Jay-Z with equal authenticity. He was a man who understood that identity was not a fixed point but a flexible tool, and he became a master at leveraging his dual heritage to his advantage, seamlessly navigating both worlds while belonging completely to either. Their first encounter was electric, a moment of intense and immediate connection. Khalid was drawn to Amina's formidable intellect, her quiet intensity, her undeniable ambition, and the unspoken security and status her family's vast wealth represented. Amina, in turn, was utterly mesmerized by his worldliness, the captivating narrative of his life, the easy confidence with which he carried himself, and most powerfully, the intense, undivided focus he bestowed upon her, a focus that made her feel, for the first time, like she was the most important person in any room they occupied. What followed was a 4-year relationship that, from the outside, appeared to be the envy of their peers. They were the golden couple, Amina, the brilliant computer science major specializing in the intricate world of cybersecurity, Khalid, the charismatic star of the business school's investment track. They were a constant, intertwined presence, studying late together in the library, cheering in the stands at football games, spending holidays seamlessly integrating into each other's complex family dynamics. Yet, beneath this polished, gilded surface, hairline fissures were already spreading through the foundation of their relationship. Khalid possessed what friends and acquaintances would later, with diplomatic understatement, term a wandering eye. During their junior year, Amina discovered a series of flirtatious texts he had exchanged with another student after a party. When confronted, Khalid did not crumble or confess. He expertly dismissed her concerns, employing a potent mix of charm, logical deflection, and feigned hurt that left her feeling foolish and overly suspicious. But the incident planted a seed of deep-seated doubt and insecurity that would never truly be eradicated. In response, the tenor of Amina's love began to subtly shift, morphing from adoration into a form of hypervigilant possession. She began to demand constant accountability, memorizing his daily schedule down to the minute, showing up unannounced at his classes, and developing an almost supernatural, anxiety-driven intuition for sensing the slightest inconsistency in his stories or demeanor. Her closest friends misinterpreted this intense focus as the hallmark of a deep, all-consuming devotion. A clinical psychologist might have identified its roots as the beginnings of a pathological fixation and a profound fear of abandonment. Khalid, for his part, did not respond by becoming more faithful. He simply became more discreet, more cunning. He learned to compartmentalize his life with the skill of a seasoned intelligence operative, managing multiple conversations and relationships across different digital platforms. Amina became his most important compartment, the one that held his future security and social standing, but she was no longer his only one. They graduated, both summa cum laude, in May 2022. Amina accepted a prestigious and highly competitive offer from a leading cybersecurity firm in Dubai, a role that played to her exacting strengths. Khalid smoothly transitioned into an executive position at his father's burgeoning company, Al Mansouri Investment Group, rather than straining their bond. The challenge of a long-distance relationship spanning 8 time zones seemed, initially, to intensify it. Their scheduled calls became precious, structured events, filled with detailed plans for a shared future they were both actively building towards. In December 2023, Khalid flew to Dubai and, in a grand, cinematic gesture, proposed to Amina beside the spectacular fountains at the base of the iconic Burj Khalifa. She said yes before he could even finish his carefully rehearsed speech. The diamond ring he presented cost more than most people earn in a year, but to the Richardson family, it was merely a fitting prelude to the exponentially more expensive celebrations that would follow. Concurrently, 3,000 miles away in Atlanta, Georgia, a brilliant young woman named Serenity Asher Brooks was weathering the most frustrating and demoralizing year of her professional life. Despite her MBA from the prestigious Spelman College and 5 years of demonstrable success in digital marketing, she had been passed over for promotion 3 separate times. The final straw was watching her latest boss, a white man half her age with half her qualifications, take full credit for a landmark marketing campaign she had conceived and executed, which landed their firm its most lucrative client. Emotionally exhausted and disillusioned with the entrenched glass ceilings of corporate America, Serenity was primed for a radical change. When a headhunter called with an unsolicited opportunity at a major investment group in Dubai, she listened for barely a minute before saying yes. At 25, single, fiercely independent, and burning with a desire to prove her worth on a truly international stage, Serenity packed her life into 2 suitcases and boarded a flight to the United Arab Emirates in January 2024. The culture shock was immediate and profound. The oppressive heat, the cacophony of different languages, the complex, unspoken social rules governing dress and behavior. It was a world away from Atlanta. Yet, Serenity was nothing if not resilient and adaptable. Her experience as a black woman navigating the often unwelcoming spaces of American corporate culture had already forged in her a steely determination. Her new role at Al Mansouri Investment Group was a perfect fit. She was tasked with modernizing their staid marketing approach to appeal to a younger, international, and digitally native clientele. It was the kind of high-stakes, high-visibility challenge she thrived on. For the first time in months, Serenity felt a surge of genuine optimism about her future. That optimism lasted exactly 3 weeks. It ended on a Tuesday morning, February 13, 2024, in the elevator of her office building. Running late for a critical meeting with senior partners, her arms overloaded with presentation boards and her mind focused on her upcoming pitch, she barely registered the man who stepped into the elevator on the 15th floor. "Going up?" he asked. His voice was a smooth, captivating baritone, laced with a faint but unmistakable southern drawl that seemed utterly out of place in the heart of downtown Dubai. Serenity looked up from her papers and felt her breath catch in her throat. He was tall, immaculately dressed in a suit that whispered of serious money and exquisite taste. And he was looking at her with an intensity that made her suddenly, acutely self-conscious. "Top floor," she managed to reply, immediately regretting the slightly breathless quality of her voice. "Same here. You must be the new marketing director everyone's been talking about," he said, a warm, confident smile gracing his features. In the 37 seconds it took the elevator to ascend to the 42nd floor, Khalid Washington had introduced himself, complimented her presentation materials without even glancing at them, and somehow managed to make her feel like she was the most fascinating person he had encountered in a very long time. Flustered but emboldened, Serenity walked into her board meeting and delivered the performance of her career. securing full approval for her ambitious strategy and earning respectful, appreciative nods from men who had previously treated her with polite indifference. She didn't know it yet, but Khalid had been observing her through the glass walls of the conference room. He had watched the way she commanded the room with quiet authority, handled challenging questions with grace and intelligence, and how her smile could illuminate even the most sterile corporate environment. For Khalid, attraction had always been intrinsically linked to the thrill of the hunt, the strategic pursuit, the challenge of winning over someone who initially seemed unattainable. Amina, with her long-standing devotion, had been a certainty, too easy, perhaps, to truly captivate him anymore. But Serenity, intelligent, beautiful, new, and professionally formidable, represented a tantalizing challenge. His pursuit was subtle, strategic, and masterful. He found legitimate business reasons to frequent the marketing department, his questions always insightful but inevitably stretching into longer, more personal conversations. He learned she was from Atlanta, that she missed proper barbecue and sweet tea, and that she was struggling to adapt to Dubai's nuanced social expectations for unmarried professional women. He expertly positioned himself as her cultural translator, her guide, the one person in the building who could genuinely understand what it was like to exist between two worlds, to be a perpetual outsider looking in. He began taking her to the parts of Dubai that tourists never see, the traditional souks where his father had conducted business for decades, the family-owned restaurants where the owners knew him by name and treated him like royalty, the discreet rooftop cafes where she could enjoy a glass of wine without attracting judgmental stares. Serenity, determined to maintain her professionalism, told herself repeatedly that it was just friendship. Khalid was being a kind colleague, helping her navigate a complex new city, nothing more. The fact that she began to look forward to his text messages more than anything else in her day was irrelevant. The way her pulse quickened when she saw his name pop up on her phone screen was meaningless. For 6 weeks, they maintained the delicate facade of two professionals who occasionally grabbed coffee together. But Khalid was playing a far more complex and long-term game than simple friendship. The carefully constructed illusion shattered in March 2024. Serenity was having a solitary dinner at a quiet Lebanese restaurant when she overheard two elegantly dressed Emirati women at the next table discussing upcoming wedding plans. One of them mentioned Khalid Washington by name, describing him as the groom and lavishly praising how utterly devoted he was to his beautiful fiancée. The delicious food in Serenity's mouth turned to ash. The next morning, she marched into his office, a speech about professional boundaries and inappropriate behavior poised on her lips. But when she saw him, when she met his gaze, all her prepared words evaporated. "You're engaged," she stated, her voice flat. Khalid didn't flinch or deny it. Instead, he calmly closed his office door, took both of her hands in his, and looked into her eyes with devastating sincerity. "I am," he admitted. "But that doesn't change anything about how I feel about you. My engagement is a family formality, a business arrangement. What I feel for you is real." What began as a complex emotional connection rapidly escalated into something far more dangerous and intimate. Khalid and Serenity began meeting clandestinely outside the office, always choosing locations where they were certain not to be recognized by colleagues or Khalid's extensive social circle. They would drive out to the majestic silence of the desert beyond the city lights, park under the vast, stardusted canopy of the sky, and talk for hours about their dreams, their frustrations, and their increasingly complicated, undeniable feelings for one another. Khalid meticulously crafted a narrative of his engagement to Amina, painting it as a cold, calculated arrangement made for business consolidation and family approval, devoid of genuine love. He portrayed Amina as a spoiled, naive princess who had never faced a day of real struggle in her life, while simultaneously positioning Serenity as his true intellectual equal, his emotional soulmate, the woman who truly understood the man he was beneath the polished exterior. Serenity knew, on every rational level, that she was making a catastrophic mistake. Every ethical fiber of her being screamed that this was wrong, that she was complicit in destroying another woman's happiness, that she was betraying her own deeply held values. But when Khalid looked at her with that potent mixture of admiration and vulnerability, when he spoke of the future they could have together once he was free, logic and morality were powerless. The physical affair began in early April, a mere 2 weeks before Khalid's scheduled wedding. They met at a luxury hotel in Abu Dhabi, a 90-minute drive from Dubai, a distance they believed provided a safe buffer against discovery. Khalid told Amina he was attending a multi-day business conference. Serenity told her colleagues she was taking a long weekend to travel and explore the country. In that opulent hotel room, with the lights of the Persian Gulf glittering like diamonds outside their window, they crossed a definitive, irrevocable line. "I love you," Khalid whispered into her hair as they lay tangled in the high-thread count Egyptian cotton sheets. "I know I have no right to say that, but it's the truth." Serenity wanted desperately to say it back. The words sat heavy and dangerous on her tongue. Instead, she kissed him, trying to drown her guilt in the physical moment, desperately trying not to think about the wedding that was now only 13 days away. The period from April 14th to April 20th, 2024, should have been the happiest, most celebrated week of Amina Richardson's life. Instead, it became the prologue to her devastating descent into a calculated madness. The festivities commenced with traditional Emirati ceremonies, including the henna night, where intricate, beautiful designs were painted on her hands and feet, while female relatives sang ancient songs celebrating love, fertility, and marital bliss. Amina glowed with authentic joy, completely oblivious to the fact that her fiancé was spending these sacred, symbolic moments stealthily texting another woman from a secret phone he had purchased precisely for this purpose. While Amina posted pictures of her henna-adorned hands on social media, radiant with happiness, Khalid was in another room, sending messages to Serenity, reassuring his mistress that the wedding was merely a performative spectacle and that his relationship with her was the only authentic thing in his life. The wedding itself was a spectacle of almost unimaginable opulence that would have dwarfed most Hollywood productions. 300 guests, a breathtaking venue overlooking the glittering Dubai Marina, flowers flown in daily from the finest growers in Holland. A custom-designed gown from a designer whose waiting list typically spanned 2 years. As she walked down the aisle on her father's arm, Amina genuinely believed she was marrying her soulmate, the man who had chosen her above all others. Her father, Rashid, had tears of pride in his eyes as he placed her hand in Khalid's. Her mother, Layla, was already dreaming of the grandchildren she hoped would arrive within the year. But even as Khalid recited the vows he had memorized, even as he slipped the heavy platinum band onto Amina's finger, a part of his attention was fractured elsewhere. During the lavish reception, while he and Amina danced as husband and wife for the first time in front of their assembled families and friends, Khalid managed to discreetly send Serenity a text message that would later be entered into evidence as a testament to his breathtaking duplicity. "This is all just for show. You're the one I really want to be celebrating with." Serenity, sitting alone in her Dubai apartment, stared at that message for 20 minutes, a cold knot of confusion and hurt tightening in her stomach, before she responded with a single, pointed question. "Then why aren't you?" His reply was instantaneous and filled with empty promise. "Soon. I promise." Neither of them realized that Amina's cousin, Zara, a highly skilled cybersecurity expert herself, had been casually monitoring social media mentions and digital footprints related to the wedding out of professional habit and familial pride. She noticed an unusual pattern in Khalid's phone usage during the reception: brief, consistent periods where he would disappear from group photos and videos, always with his phone conspicuously in his hand. Zara said nothing that night, not wanting to cast a shadow on her cousin's happiness. But she filed the digital anomaly away, a silent witness to a truth that had yet to reveal itself. Amina had planned their honeymoon with her characteristic meticulous precision. 2 weeks in the Maldives, staying in an exclusive overwater villa that cost more per night than most people earn in a month. She had researched the most romantic restaurants, booked private couples spa treatments, and arranged for intimate beach dinners under the stars. But just 3 days into this paradise, Khalid received what he claimed was an urgent, unavoidable call from his father's company. "There's a major problem with the Houston portfolio," he told Amina, his face a mask of convincing disappointment. "It's a complete mess. I have to fly back immediately to handle it personally." Amina was utterly devastated. This was to be their sacred time, their chance to solidify their new marriage away from the pressures of family and business. But she had been raised to be the supportive, understanding wife, to prioritize her husband's career and responsibilities. "How long will you be gone?" she asked, struggling to keep the crushing disappointment from her voice. 4 days, maybe 5 at the most," he promised, his tone dripping with feigned regret. "I'll fly straight to Houston, put out the fire, and be back before you even have time to miss me." What Khalid did not tell his new bride was that there was no business crisis. The trip to Houston had been planned and coordinated with Serenity for weeks, arranged through encrypted messages and coded conversations. It was Serenity's 26th birthday, and Khalid had promised to celebrate it with her in style. He had booked them into the presidential suite of the Four Seasons Houston, the same hotel where his own parents had honeymooned 29 years earlier. The profound irony of the choice was not lost on him, but he had successfully convinced himself that what he shared with Serenity was somehow purer, more authentic than the business arrangement of his marriage. Serenity had initially refused to participate. The wedding photos had been saturating her social media feeds, and seeing Khalid in his tailored tuxedo, looking genuinely happy and triumphant as he kissed his beautiful bride, had made her physically ill with guilt and cognitive dissonance. "I can't do this anymore," she had told him during a tearful, fraught phone call the night after the wedding. "This is wrong. She loves you. She's your wife." Khalid's response was a masterclass in emotional manipulation. "She loves the idea of me, the status I represent. You love the real me. You see the man behind the suit." It was a flattering, intoxicating distinction that would, ultimately, prove fatal for all of them. While Khalid was weaving his web of lies between 2 women on 2 different continents, Amina was alone in the Maldives, struggling with a growing, gnawing suspicion that something was fundamentally wrong. It began with small, almost imperceptible things: the new, almost possessive way he guarded his phone, never leaving it unattended, his decision to stop sharing his real-time location with her, claiming that now that they were married, they should respect each other's privacy, the mysterious, hushed phone calls he would take in another room, always returning with explanations that felt just a little too smooth, too rehearsed. Amina was, first and foremost, a world-class cybersecurity expert, trained to spot digital anomalies, patterns of deception, and inconsistencies in data. Her professional instincts, honed over years, were screaming that something was terribly amiss, but her heart, so newly and fully invested in this marriage, kept manufacturing excuses, dismissing the alarms as paranoia or post-wedding stress. On April 25th, 3 days after Khalid had left for Houston, Amina made a decision that would alter the trajectory of countless lives forever. Sitting alone in her luxurious villa, the pristine Indian Ocean stretching endlessly before her, she logged into their shared mobile phone account, a privilege she now had as his legal wife. She began a methodical analysis of their call and text records. What she discovered made the blood drain from her face and her hands turn to ice. There were hundreds upon hundreds of messages to a single, Houston-based phone number, dating back months. The frequency of communication had skyrocketed in the weeks immediately preceding their wedding, and most damning of all, there were messages sent during their wedding reception, during their first night together as husband and wife in the Maldives, and even from the very villa in which she now Saturday, with the cold, focused precision of the professional she was. Amina cross-referenced the number with every public and private database she could access. It took her less than an hour to identify the owner, Serenity Asher Brooks. Marketing Director, Al Mansouri Investment Group. The same company. The same office. A torrent of nausea and white-hot rage washed over her. She spent the next 6 hours conducting a digital investigation that showcased the full, terrifying extent of her expertise. She bypassed passwords and security questions, hacking into Serenity's social media accounts, her email, tracing their combined digital footprints across flight manifests, hotel reservations, and credit card statements. She pieced together a detailed, horrifying timeline that laid bare a campaign of systematic, brazen betrayal. The evidence was overwhelming. Hotel reservations in Abu Dhabi for 2 under aliases, restaurant receipts for 2 meals on evenings Khalid had claimed to be at late business dinners alone, location data from his phone that placed him at her apartment building on dozens of occasions. But the most devastating discovery came when she managed to access the backup cloud storage for Khalid's second, secret phone. The device he believed was utterly hidden from her contained a trove of intimate photos, explicit videos, and text messages that eviscerated any last shred of doubt. There were pictures of them together in various hotel rooms, videos of Serenity laughing, wearing nothing but his dress shirt, and message after message where they professed their love and plotted a future that explicitly excluded her. One exchange, time-stamped from their wedding night, would be burned into her memory forever. Khalid had written, "I kept thinking about you during the entire ceremony. I wish it was you standing there at that altar with me instead of her." Serenity's response, "Someday it will be. I can wait." Khalid's final message in that thread, "You won't have to wait long. I'm already planning how to end this marriage without losing my inheritance. Give me 6 months and we can be together officially." Amina stared at those words until they blurred through a haze of tears and incandescent rage. 6 months. He had been planning to discard her, to divorce her, within 6 months of their wedding. Every vow, every promise, every dream they had woven together over 6 years had been a calculated, elaborate lie. But what finally shattered her completely, what pushed her past the point of grief and into a realm of cold, homicidal fury, was the simultaneous realization that Khalid was in Houston at that very moment, not to manage a business crisis, but to celebrate another woman's birthday in the same bed where he should have been honeymooning. As the fireworks lit up the Dubai night, Amina Jelani Richardson believed she was stepping into a lifetime of love with Khalid Washington. But in those fleeting moments of celebration, the seeds of betrayal were already sown. Khalid's secret text to Serenity Brooks, sent from the heart of their wedding reception, marked the beginning of a deception that would unravel everything Amina held dear. What did those messages mean for their future? And how would Amina, with her brilliant mind and hidden vulnerabilities, react when the truth came to light? This is only the beginning of a story that will take you from the heights of love to the depths of vengeance, and we're just getting started. We want to hear from you. What do you think is coming next for Amina and Khalid? Share your name and where you're watching from in the comments below. Shatil Jenkins, we know you're out there. Tell us what you think of Amina's story so far. If this tale of love and looming betrayal has you hooked, smash that like button and subscribe to The Killer Next Door for more. In our next video, Part 2 dives into the honeymoon that turned into a nightmare, revealing the shocking discovery that pushed Amina to the edge. You won't want to miss it. Hit that notification bell so you don't. Stay safe, and we'll see you in part 2.